Good morning all, Srinivas here. Today we are going to discuss about the remaining topics. Let me share my screen. Any clarification on yesterday's session? Please unmute yourself and ask.
About sockets.
Sorry?
Sockets.
What is the doubt? Core and socket.
Socket and core.
Okay.
Sir, no voice, sir.
Sorry?
No voice, sir.
No voice.
It's clearly you are hearing.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is a picture of the motherboard and the socket, what on this particular motherboard, which one? There are multiple components are there in this motherboard. Which one is a socket? Which one is a slot? Yesterday we discussed about the processor and memory. So the processor chip where to install and memory module where to install. How to identify? In this particular motherboard, this particular square, the square box is there, that is, we call it as a socket, processor socket, where we are going to insert the processor chip. Whereas if you see that a lengthy slots, I'm calling as this one slots, and this particular square one, I'm calling as a socket. Okay. So in the motherboard specification, if you see as a manual, that it is going to clearly define what is what. Okay. Any doubt? Is it clear?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So any other clarification is required for yesterday's session, yesterday's topic?
One socket have how many cores?
One socket is how many cores? See here, first of all, in this particular motherboard, what is this? This particular square box, it is a socket, right? Now, in this particular socket, we are going to install the processor. Okay, that processor, if you come here, Intel see here. This is a processor chip, Intel Xeon CPU 9480. This is a model. This is a processor, Xeon server processor. If you see here, how many cores it is going to support?
56.
56. That in the sense, this single physical chip, the single physical chip is look like this. This is Xeon processor. According to the model, what model we are going to talk about? This is a model Intel site, the processor specifications available. If you go to intel.com under products, you can see this is the number of cores. What processor we have to install on this particular motherboard, it is always depends upon the motherboard capacity, motherboard specification, what configuration this particular motherboard is going to support. The socket is available. In this socket, I can install the processor. What processor this motherboard is going to support, the specification will be published by the motherboard manufacturer. Okay. Even as we are going to purchase a server as a bundle, that server specifications clearly mention this server has 2 sockets, 4 sockets. Each socket, it is going to support this kind of processor information. What processor this is, they are going to mention processor model, Intel Xeon CPU 9480 or 9460. See here, according to each processor, there is a number of cores are going to vary. Yesterday, if you see on another model, we see here, there are different families are available here. Yesterday, we reviewed this particular Intel Xeon processor. Let me go through that. Intel Xeon D processor. See here, Intel, this particular processor, how many cores it is going to support? 10 cores. Whereas in this particular model, 9480 model, how many cores it is going to support? 56. So as we are going to work on virtualization, we need to look for max capacity, a high-end server. We are going to call it as an enterprise environment. We are going to call it as mid-level servers, high-end servers like that. So high-end servers in the sense, what kind of processor it is going to support, how much memory it is going to support. Clear? Any doubt?
Yeah, okay.
Shall I proceed with the next topic?
Okay.
Anyone having any other doubt for yesterday's session? Yesterday we discussed about only motherboard, processor, and memory. The main takeaway from this yesterday session is on motherboard, what is a socket, how many sockets are available, that is one identification. And second identification is how many slots are available in a particular picture. In this particular motherboard, how many processor sockets can be installed, how much memory modules, how many memory modules can be installed. Okay, that is a takeaway from the motherboard. Coming to the processor, we discussed about what is a core, logical cores. Physical chip is only one. How many cores, how many logical cores available on a physical chip? That is one concept. Second concept is virtualization. The processor virtualization on motherboard BIOS, the virtualization should be enabled. Then only we can install virtualization. Okay. And one more thing, hyper-threading. What is hyper-threading? It is going to double the capacity of available logical cores. These important terminologies we need to take away from yesterday's session. Okay.
Sir,
Yes, please.
all CPU support VMware?
Sorry?
All CPU support VMware?
All CPU.
All model?
All models. See, the motherboard, it is depends upon motherboard, how it is going to support. See, I mentioned this in BIOS setting, that particular motherboard. What are the motherboard we are going to talk about? Just 1 minute. In this particular motherboard, we mentioned that there is a BIOS setting. Under BIOS setting, there is an option virtualization. That virtualization should be there on the motherboard. Even if you are going to install virtualization layer on your laptop, You can install virtualization, VMware workstation you can install. Whereas in that motherboard, wherever you are going to any kind of virtualization layer, that motherboard, that system should be enable this virtualization concept should be enabled. If this concept is not enabled on the motherboard, you cannot install virtualization layer. Any kind of virtualization layer, you are not in a position to install. How many processors it is going to support? All processor models. What we are going to discuss about first, that motherboard, that socket. According to this motherboard socket, the socket specifications will be there. What kind of processor it is going to support? Even I can install hypervisor layer on the desktop. Can I get a maximum performance? Why should I go for server motherboard, server architecture? Why can't a desktop architecture? Desktop architecture is designed for single user interface, single user application uses. Whereas in server architecture, it is going to use for multiple users interaction, multiple sessions. So that's the reason we are going to choose the server hardware. On that server hardware, by default, virtualization layer will be enabled. What kind of processors it is going to support? The specification will be available for each and every hardware. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me go with the next session. That is storage. Desktop versus server storage. What you know about storage? What is the necessity of storage? Storage, the importance of this, we need to copy the data. For example, we are installing an operating system. In a sense, operating system is nothing but a set of programmable files, right? That programmable files need to place on a storage. What storage? What we are going to talk about? If you have a mobile, we are going to talk about storage. We are going to copy your important files or photos and all those things where you are going to place. That is a storage, we call it as. In mobile, we are going to call it as that SD card, local storage. Whatever the SD card we are going to use, that SD card also some specification will be there, right? Coming to this desktop, in your desktop system, hard disk will be there. What is that hard disk? Hard disk is nothing but a storage. What is a capacity? Maybe 500 GB, 1 TB, like that. Okay. What kind of hard disk? For example, what we need to understand from the storage concept is there is a technology that what is a throughput? That is important. As we are working on a server infrastructure, we need to choose high throughput, whichever device is going to support. Consider SD card in mobile. You might notice SD card as defined as a class 4, class 6, class 10. What is those differences? What is that classes? You are going to buy a SD card and you are going to see, is it a class 4, class 6 or class 10? What is that specification? Anyone?
Depends upon storage.
What is it?
Depends upon storage, dividing the classes.
Class 4. Anyone else? What is this class definition? What is that? Why they are mentioning SD card? It is a sorry, 16 GB SD card, a 32 GB SD card. They are going to mention class. The class is defines the throughput, how much read and write, how much data it can transfer.
Transfer speed also, sir.
Sorry?
Speed also, sir. Class 5 speed also maybe differs, sir. Class 4 is some transfer data rate.
Exactly. That SD card performance, why we need to choose high performance? If my mobile requires a high performance, then I'm going to choose, it is going to transfer the data transfer rate 300 MB per second, that read and write access to that particular storage media. Whereas in class 4, it may be 50 MB per second. Okay, 50 MB data transfer rate per given second. So while choosing, you are choosing for mobile, you are looking at the throughput, what is the speed it is going to depend. The same way, even in hard disk, in laptop hard disk, you can see SSD, solid state device, and normal traditional hard disk. What is traditional hard disk? Traditional
3D,
hard disk is a Seagate or anything. It is having a mechanical movement wherein the spindle, it is going to rotate. Okay. And how much data transfer rate for each and every storage device. Storage device is nothing but it is going to hard disk. I'm going to call it as earlier days. We are going to call it as a hard disk, 100 GB hard disk, 500 GB hard disk, like that. Now, if you purchase a new laptop, they are providing two specifications, 500 GB hard disk and 128 GB SSD. Why? What is the difference between hard disk and SSD?
Transfer data, sir, main. And compared to the transfer data, HDD is very low, sir. SSD is more, sir, solid state drive.
Yeah, exactly. So we are looking at the laptop layer, laptop hardware itself. We are looking for what we are looking, maximum performance. That maximum performance, which one it is going to provide? SSD, solid state device. Okay. So coming to the server, what type of hard disk we are going to use? Okay. There are, before going for hard disk, different controllers are available. For example, for your laptop, one disk is connected internally. How you are going to connect external device? What is the media you are using to connect external hard disk? External hard disk, how you are going to connect?
Through cable, sir.
What is the cable? USB. That is a USB is an interface. It is going to connect that external hard disk to your laptop. Okay. So coming to the server storage basically divides what is this terminology? DAS, DS, direct attached storage. Okay, you can Google it.
Network attached storage, direct attached storage.
Yes, exactly. I'm not going to mention a complete information.
Sir,
what is the storage?
Storage
area network.
Area network.
So the storage in server concept, it is going to come into picture, how the storage is going to assign, what is the requirement of the server. Okay. For example, I'm going to talk about a single server. What hard disk available in that particular system? Either it can be whatever the direct attached storage. Direct attached storage can be hard disk, can be SSD, and yesterday someone mentioned that NVMe. Okay, so this is flash disk. So different types of the storage media. Each storage media, it is going to
means, sir.
Sorry?
NVMe.
It is a one kind of technology wherein it is acts as a flash, non-volatile. Some terminology is there. It is a one faster technology than SSD. We are going to talk about a throughput, right? That throughput, we are going to get a maximum throughput by using this, whatever the media it is going to connect, the technology it is going to use NVMe. Okay. So in direct attached storage, the hard disk, whatever the storage, how it is going to connect? Can someone go on mute, please? If you are not talking, please go on mute. Thank you. So direct attached storage, what are the components, how we are going to connect that? You are going to call it as USB, you are going to call it as KC, IDE. There are different controllers we are going to use. SATA, different types of controllers. Whatever the controllers we are going to use, all these controllers, what we are going to consider, how this direct attached storage to the server, how it is connected, through which controller it is connected. Each controller having a specification, how the data transfer rate and how much data transfer rate can transfer in a specific time. That is the importance, the throughput. I can use a SCSI device. Can I use IDE controller in a server hardware? IDE controller, it is going to design for only desktop environment, either a laptop or other thing. IDE is not suitable for server. Okay, so the specifications will be there, whatever the hard disk, whatever the SSD or flash disk, how we are going to connect to that, where we are going to connect this hard disk and all those things. The specific SCSI disk is there. SCSI disk in the sense, the SCSI cable will be there. The SCSI cable is going to control, it is as a controller, SCSI controller we call it as. That controller, where it is going to connect? On this particular motherboard. Okay, once it is connected to that specific controller type, even that motherboard specification is going to provide, this motherboard is going to support SCSI devices, SCSI storage devices. This motherboard is going to support SSD devices. If I want to use some specification of the storage type, that storage type should support that motherboard. Now, the latest hardware, latest server models, everything is going to come with SSD or NVMe or flash disks. Okay, very rare, the high-end servers are coming with hard disk. Okay, so different combinations we are going to use. What kind of storage we have to use for server? What specification we need to look at? How much data transfer rate? As we are working on a server, maximum users are going to access, and the read and write access to the storage media should be high. Then only we are going to get desired output. For example, processor, I'm using 56 cores. Memory, I'm using 1 TB memory. If I use hard disk, very low capacity, does it make any sense? Whatever the data it is going to read and write, that should be a faster enough to execute that program, so that the user is going to get a seamless interface where he can access the data as per the requirement. For example, database server is there. It is a disk intensive application. If I'm going to use the lowest capacity, lowest transfer rate throughput of the hard disk, the database performance will hit. Is it correct, right? So as we are going to define the terminology, direct attached storage, why we need to use direct attached storage, what are the combinations we are going to use. For every storage device, it is going to use some kind of controller to connect that hard disk. What kind of controller that motherboard is going to support? According to the motherboard options availability, we have to choose a hard disk or SSD or flash disk. Okay, clear? So there are different terminologies, the technologies are available. Generally in server, we are going to use SCSI. Most of the servers, SCSI controller we are going to use. And some places we are going to use SATA, PATA. For each and every controller, there is a specifications. Specs will be there. That specs is going to mention the throughput of the device, throughput of the capacity, how much data transfer rate it can support for each and every device. Okay. So for example, this DAS is clear about DAS. there are three terminologies in hard storage: DAS, NAS, and SAN. When we are going to use DAS, when we are going to use NAS, when we are going to use SAN, what is the requirement? Okay, for example, I have a server, or a single server is there. Can I use NAS? Can I use SAN? Can I use DAS? What is the organization requirement? Okay, DAS is a directly attached storage. If, for example, some hardware issue is there on the server, can I access the data on that whatever the disk it is attached to the server? I cannot access the data, right? Then the concept came in picture: centralized storage. That centralized storage, different two technologies are in use, that is NAS and SAN. For each and everything, network attached storage, what is the requirement? Network attached storage can be configured. What is a centralized storage? A storage server will be there, wherein we are going to access that centralized storage through a communication media. In NAS, it is going to use the existing network infrastructure. Sorry, could you please go on mute, please? Thank you. If you are not speaking, if you don't have any doubt, please go on mute. Okay, coming back to the topic. So network attached storage, why network attached storage SAN is going to come into picture? To avoid direct attached storage failures. For example, if it is direct attached storage is some hardware issue, I am not in a position to access the data. It could be operating system, it could be database file, it could be file server, anything. If the server hardware is having some issue, whatever this data I stored on that particular server, I'm not in a position to access, right? If it is a centralized storage, I can configure different concepts: backup, centralized location, some policies I can implement, and all those things. How to access the storage? Network attached storage is going to use the existing network infrastructure. What network infrastructure is already available, that same network infrastructure can be used to access the centralized storage. So here, when we are going to use, for each and every technology, there is a limitations and pros and cons, right? Advantages and disadvantages. Similarly, network attached storage having some limitations. We need to check organization requirement. Is it network attached storage is sufficient or not? Okay, based on the organization requirement only, what storage we need to use. Coming to the SAN, for SAN, it is expansive. It is going to work on fiber optic, wherever enterprise workloads, wherein it requires a high throughput. They cannot depend on direct attached storage, because the direct attached storage is not a centralized storage. It is not going to be support. Whereas in network attached storage has some limitation of data transfer rate. That SAN, it is a storage area network wherein we are going to use fiber optic communication, that it is requires a server have a specific controller, that is a host bus adapter we call it as. At the same time, we need to get a configuration of fiber optic switches, because it has to send communication from the client to the storage server. Storage server, if it is SAN, how I'm going to get a storage to my client device? My client device is nothing but a server where I'm going to use that storage as a accessible data. So what is the requirements? If this motherboard should have a HBA card in the sense host bus adapter, that is one kind of storage controller to connect to the fiber optic communication to the storage server. The storage server will be there and it is going to connect over the SAN communication. SAN is nothing but fiber optic switch, and HBA cards will be there. And see, this is a HBA card, how it looks like. This kind of card will be there. and it is going to insert on the motherboard, we need to find out is a HBA card is available. If the motherboard, whatever the server you are going to purchase, if that HBA card is not there, we are not in a position to look for SAN requirements. You cannot fulfill SAN requirements. Not only HBA card, if I need to use a fiber optic cable, the fiber optic switches should be there to establish communication to the storage server. So we need to look at the organization requirement, what is the cost of the ownership, and all those things consideration, we need to design the storage available to centralized storage. Most of the organization, mid-level organization, they'll go with the centralized storage with NAS concept because the existing network infrastructure can be used to access the centralized storage. Why is the centralized storage is important in this in virtualization layer? Okay, while discussing about that ESXi host storage concept, as we are going to deploy number of servers on a storage, number of servers is nothing but the servers is a combination of files. That files will be stored on a storage. That storage, if it is a local, if the server is failed, how many servers are going to impact? That's the reason in virtualization layer, it is always hosted on centralized storage only. What kind of centralized storage? It is a NAS and SAN. Even NAS and SAN, it is going to connect a storage server. The storage server again having a multiple hard disk, multiple SSD disk to get a maximum storage capacity. Maybe a 500 TB storage, 1000 TB storage. Out of 1000 TB storage, how we are going to assign bits and pieces of the storage to each and every requirement. Okay, so it is SAN is a quite expansive. It requires more infrastructure wherein it to support fiber optic communication. Specific devices are required to establish this SAN storage. Okay, SAN storage or NAS, both are going to connect a storage server. Between the storage server and individual server, the standalone client server, okay, that how it is going to establish communication. What is the communication we are looking for? We need to get a maximum throughput, maximum data transfer rate. So to look at the performance factors in an enterprise environment, we need to consider the storage is one of the key component, how the transfer rate, how much throughput we are going to get. What is the latency? Okay. Latency also is very important. See that the technical terminologies, whatever we are going to use, these are the terminologies are going to use in our virtualization topic. Where in virtualization topic, we are going to discuss about what kind of performance, what is the performance bottleneck, which place the performance bottleneck. We need to look at the 5 components. What 5 components? CPU is the bottleneck, memory is the bottleneck, storage is the bottleneck, or network is the bottleneck. We need to understand this concept, the physical layer, then only we can troubleshoot the performance topics in virtualization layer. Any doubt on the storage concept?
Quick question, sir. Like you said, in the EXXi host, we can use NAS or SAN, but NAS is very common to use. Can we easily tell once we log into the EXXi, let's say I'm new to the company, can I easily tell what type of storage they're using just by logging into that?
Yes, we can, by logging into the ESXi host, if you go to the storage concepts, we will find out what type of storage it is, what kind of controllers are available on particular ESXi host. That ESXi host is nothing but a physical server. On physical server, there is a tabs available. While discussing about ESXi host, that navigation I'm going to showcase, wherein the physical controllers available, physical network interfaces, physical storage controllers. That physical storage controllers, whatever it is detected, and there is no specific storage controller, then that SAN concept we are not going to look at. At the same time, once the storage is accessible is there, and the storage part, you can see what type of the controller, what type of communication it is happening in the storage data store. We call it as a data store. While accessing the data store properties, you will come to know what kind of device it is. Is it an NAS attached, or it is a SAN, or it is a local disk? Okay.
Can we use a combination of NAS and SAN in one EXSI host, or?
Definitely. See, the
Okay.
thing is that we can use even direct on all three components. Direct attached storage we can use, NAS we can use, SAN we can use. But that depends upon availability on that particular hardware. If it is, what is the requirement here? For NAS, network port is sufficient. Network card will be there by default any server, right? So I can use network configuration for this to access that particular NAS storage. I need to configure by using existing network infrastructure. If I want to use storage network, I should have a HBA card. It is a host bus adapter. If this controller is not available that on server and that ESXi host, I cannot access the SAN. Some devices are there, fiber optic over the network. Okay, some technologies are there wherein it is going to use some kind of communication, high network interfaces. That high network interfaces are going to connect back-end network switches, where network switches is going to convert that throughput and establish communication to that storage area network. That is, combinations are available. We can use multiple storage types in any one ESXi host. Okay.
Okay. Right.
Generally, operating system will be loaded on direct attached storage, most of the enterprise workloads, and even some enterprise workloads that even ESXi host will be installed on a SAN. It is going to boot from the SAN. It is not from local disk. Okay. The combinations are available. We can do any kind of combination in any ESXi host. Any other doubt? Shall I proceed with next topic? Hope you understand this network storage concepts. What type of storage we need to use? What is the factor we need to consider? Throughput. What is the maximum throughput? What device it is going to support? What motherboard? What type of control it is support? Based on the controller only, I can attach the respective disk, respective storage. Okay. Don't get confused about the storage. What is DAS, NAS, and SAN? All these broader terminologies for storage. What is DAS? It is a kind of local storage most of the times. NAS, it is going to connect the same storage over the network. Whereas in SAN, it is again the same storage. It is connecting over the fiber optic. Okay. So how it is going to connect? If you want to connect a specific controller, that controller should be available on that motherboard. Okay. So generally, we are not going to use for IDE controller. Not recommended for server, IDE controller. The rest of the USB also, same thing. USB also we are not going to use for server. Okay, we are going to use a SCSI, SATA, PATA, and different terminology, SSD, NVMe, and a flash disk we are going to use for server storage purposes. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Coming to that desktop and server network. What is this? Before understanding going for server network, what I'm going to explain is for understanding desktop and server. For example, you have a laptop, okay? If I'm going to the laptop configuration, most of the laptops are going to connect Wi-Fi, right? Can I use Wi-Fi network technology in a server? So
No.
we are not in a position to use Wi-Fi technology in a server. So I can say
it is very slow.
Yeah. So the Wi-Fi, by looking at the Wi-Fi, I can say that this technology is suitable for desktop and mobile communications and all those things, right? So what is the we are going to look at that speed in network. What is the speed we are looking at? Earlier days, 10 Mbps, 100 Mbps. What is your network configuration on current laptop? What you have in the current laptop? It is 1 Gbps. These are the technical terminologies. I'm mentioning capital letters in one place and rest of these small letters. Okay. This is a specification is important while representing network communication. Bits per second. Okay. So it should be small letters. Okay. Currently, whatever the laptop, whatever the Ethernet, what is Ethernet first of all? Ethernet network card, network interface card. We are going to call it as a NIC. So all these terminologies are referring to that network device. Why network device is required? Ethernet card is required. It is to establish communication from one system to another system. Without network, without Wi-Fi, will you able to establish communication? For example, you are not connected to network. In your laptop, you have one network card by default and Wi-Fi device. Both are in disabled state. Will you able to establish communication? Will you able to download anything? Will you able to connect internet?
No.
Right. So that network interface, whatever the network interface we are going to use, it is that here also we are going to call it as a throughput. And what is the capacity that throughput it is going to provide? Now all laptops, it is by default, it is going to support 1 Gbps network connection. You can check your configuration network card, and Wi-Fi it is going to support, depends upon that configuration. Different combinations are available. Okay, B, C, and different Wi-Fi terminologies are available. We are not going to discuss because it is not supporting for server network. Okay, coming to the server network, what kind of network adapter we are going to use. Okay, what is a network adapter? First we need to identify what is a network adapter. See here, hope everyone is aware how network card is look like. What is this slot? There is a female slot is there. What is this slot? We call it as, this is a port. What is this port? Where we are going to insert a cable. What kind of cable it is? What kind of cable it is?
Ethernet cable.
RJ45.
Yes. Cat5 cable. That Cat5 cable is nothing but it is the Cat5 cable is Cat6 also is there. Good. And where it is this Cat5, Cat6 cable is going to insert in a port. What is that port? We call it as, that port is nothing but RJ45. RJ45 port. Okay. Thus, as the port is available in each and every laptop and at the same time on a server. While coming to the server, the communication, that server capacity, as it is laptop itself, it is supporting 1 Gbps for single user interface. As we are talking about server, how much data transfer it should be? What kind of network adapter should be we have to use? Okay, generally on latest hardware, all latest hardware supports 10 Gbps and LACP concept it is going to come into picture. What is LACP and all those things we are going to discuss in the network concepts. Before discussing about network concepts, we need to understand the basic network component. What is Ethernet card? What is Ethernet card? Ethernet card is nothing but a network card. I can call it as Ethernet card, I can call it a network card, network interface card, or NIC. Whatever the terminology I'm going to use, it is going to refer this particular card. Whatever the port it is available on this network port, that port I'm going to call it as a RJ45 port. Okay. So how we are going to connect by using it is going to connect by using Cat cable, Cat5, Cat6 cable, and that connector will be there. That connector will insert in this particular port. This port we call it as a RJ45 port. Okay. Now, have you ever seen how we are going to connect the two systems? For example, in your home, you have 4 mobile devices. How you are going to establish communication? How we are able to establish communication from Wi-Fi to internet? How we are going to access? Everyone is going to connect a router, right? That router is available wherein it is going to support Wi-Fi technology, wherein you are able to connect Wi-Fi technology and to a device. That device, we are going to call it as broadband internet router, right? For example, if you enter a cave, wherein an internet cave, there are 10 desktops available. All 10 users are accessing desktop and accessing internet. How these 10 devices are connected? Where these 10 systems are connected? Where they are going to connect? How they are going to connect? What device is required?
Through routers.
Router.
Switch.
We
Through
need to
DSCP pool.
understand. We need to understand what is a hub, what is a switch, when we are going to use router, when we are going to use firewall. Okay, these are the devices is available in network configuration. How it is a hub? Have you ever seen that hub device? See here, generally, if you go to internet cafe, where that hub device will be there. What is hub device? It has a ports, either 8 ports or 16 ports or 32 ports, wherein they are going to connect. One end it is going to connect to the system, desktop system. Another end is going to connect this particular device, right? And so that the 10 systems are going to establish communication with each other. At the same time, they are going to get internet. How it is happening? All 10 systems are connected to a hub device. What is a hub? What is a switch? We need to understand this particular concept very carefully. I am going to present this in a different manner while discussing about ESXi host networking configuration. Before going for that layer, we need to understand what is the difference between hub and switch. Okay, generally the hub, I can say it is a passive device, right? Passive device, it is going to connect, the packet is going to travel without any management, without any intelligence. Whereas in switch, we can configure in such a way that active device, I can call it as manageable device, we can call it as. What is manageable? What is manageable? Manageable in the sense, I'm going to configure in such a way that whatever the packet is traveling from one system to another system, that packet, I hope you are able to understand what is packet. Packet is nothing but a data packet. From the network communication, it is 32-bit data packet. It travels from one system to another system. It is going to have a header and footer and all those information. If you are not sure, just Google it. What is a packet? So network communication is going to happen. The packet is going to travel from source to destination. How it is going to travel? It is going to travel how the systems are connected all together. I have an internet cafe, where in internet cafe, I have 10 systems. All 10 systems should get internet. So how can I provide? So all 10 systems are going to connect to this particular hub device. Hub device is a non-manageable device. I can say it is a passive device, okay? Whereas in switch, there is a switch is available, Cisco switch, Jupyter switch, Broadcom switch, different technologies are available in switch, wherein I can control, I can manage that packet transfer. Whatever the packet is traveling from one system to another system, I can define even bandwidth also. Okay, from one system, I can assign 100 Mbps. How you are going to restrict? You are going to purchase broadband internet. The broadband internet, you are purchasing a 400 rupees plan, 1000 rupees plan. They'll mention that a 30 Mbps speed, 500 Mbps speed, like that. How they are achieving that speed limitation? They are achieving that speed limitation by using this switch. The same physical switch in virtualization layer, how we are going to incorporate. Without understanding the switch, what is the necessity of switch? Switch or hub, it is required to establish communications two or more systems. Generally in enterprise environment, there are number of servers will be there, number of desktops will be there. All systems are able to communicate with one to another. How I am accessing server? That server is going to connect a switch, and my desktop, my laptop is going to connect a switch, wherein communication is going to establish. The packet is going to travel from my system to the server through a switch. Okay, so that particular switch, if it is a manageable switch, that is, we call it as a switch. If it is non-manageable device, that is, we call it as a hub. Any clarification? Is it clear?
Yeah, thank you.
So, now, what we need to understand here, hub and switch, we need to understand very much clear. Even see here, the switch, the network adapter has a port, RJ45 port. The same port is available on this particular device as well. Okay, so the system is going to establish communication. The system is going to connect a cable, Cat5, Cat6 cable. One end is going to connect to the system. Another end is going to connect to a switch or a hub. I'm not going to discuss about hub going forward, as we are talking about server administration, wherein we are going to use only manageable switches, Cisco switch, Jupyter switch, Broadcom, different switches. Okay, so when the router is going to come into picture? When the router is going to come into picture?
Two different networks.
Thank you. Yes, when we call it as a local area network, whenever there is a subnet, so networking concepts are going to come into picture while understanding the router. And even switches also, we need to understand some network basic concepts, wherein we need to decide what is what is switch, what is router, firewall, what is LAN, and what is WAN. Okay, and port group. Okay, what is a port group and port group? What is a VLAN, VLAN ID, the trunk port, this uplink. These are the terminologies we should have a basic understanding while understanding the network concept of virtualization. Okay, so coming to this point, could you please go on mute, please? Someone. Thank you. So, LAN. Please go on mute with some disturbance. Okay. Okay. LAN, local area network. WAN is wide area network. In some cases, we are going to use WAN. When we are going to use LAN. In LAN, we are going to understand VLAN. What is VLAN? Before
Virtual
understanding,
LAN network,
sorry?
Virtual local area network.
Yes, exactly. So what is a VLAN? What is a LAN concept? Why we need to understand? Before going for LAN and VLAN, we need to understand port and port group. Port and port group, we know what is a port, right? In this particular switch is there. There are 48 ports are available. All these 48 ports is going to establish communication from each system. Now, this particular port, I'm going to call it as a one port. Out of 48 ports, I'm going to call it as a port group. What is a port group communication? Why we need to segregate? There is a subnetting concept. When subnetting is concept, the network administrator is going to provide a subnetting information. What is a VLAN ID? What is VLAN ID is going to come in picture. For switch connection, I'm going to establish port group information, but system understanding, that switch understanding internally, It is going to establish the packet travel, is going to establish communication for that port group based on VLAN ID. That VLAN ID with the network administrator is going to assign so that that packet is going to travel within that subnetwork only. Network segmentation, we call it as. What is the importance of this port group and port? Port is nothing but a port where we are going to connect, that is a port. Port group is nothing but the port number of system. For example, there is a difference. HR and finance are different departments are there. So HR systems establish the packet has to travel within the HR systems. How they are going to network administrators is going to design, they are going to create a port group. And how the system is going to understand what to whom I am belonging to. The packet, whatever the packet is traveling from source to destination, how the packet is going to understand which network I need to pass, which network I need to go. That is VLAN ID, it is going to come into picture. Okay. So once LAN and VLAN is going to come into picture, the router is coming to picture. Router is nothing but establishing the packet has to travel within the local area network within same VLAN. That is fine. If that particular packet has to travel a different network, then we need a router. There are router technologies, routing principles are there, and router is going to establish communication from one network to another network. Okay, that is router. We are going to call it as a gateway, default gateway. We are going to mention each and I configuration default gateway. That is the IP address of the router, wherein the packet is going to reach that router and decide is the packet has to within the network or it has to go another network. Okay, router is going to pass that packet to the destination network by using router. Router is nothing but establishing communication between two different networks. Okay, so port group is nothing but it is for our understanding the port group name we are going to give. How the system, the packet is going to understand, it is going to understand based on the VLAN ID. Okay, who is going to design this network? Network administrator is going to design this VLAN ID and all those things. What is a firewall? Firewall is nothing but here I'm going to call it as again the port. That port is different.
Gateway level security control.
Application port numbers. Application port. This port is belongs to the switch port, that network card port I'm calling it as. The firewall is going to work. It is going to restrict the packet based on the port number, application port number. For example, HTTP 80 port number 80, HTTPS port number 443. If I want to block 80 transfer 80 port number, the firewall device is going to block all the packets which are having port number 80. So it is not going to pass the traffic within the organization. They are going to block. So firewall is very important, wherein the security is going to applicable based on the application port number restrictions. Clear? Any doubt? Just we need to understand the difference between application port and this particular port and port group. Both are different. Okay? Any doubt?
One more time. Application port number, I'm trying to understand. Is it
Yes.
Is it something like we can manage the port within the switch?
Thus, this application port numbers, why I'm mentioned here, as we are discussing as virtualization layer, we need to understand port and port group. Okay. Even we are going to call it as a HTTP. Some application port number, default port numbers are there in administration. We are going to use HTTP. Web browser is going to access two port numbers. One is secure port number, another one is normal HTTP. That is port 80. For example, HTTP. That is port number is 80.
The default port, yeah.
HTTPS, the port number is 443. Like SMTP, FTP, SSH, each and every packet, that packet, whatever the packet is traveling from the source to destination, that packet is going to travel, how it is going to establish? It is going to establish communication based on the OSI model, the 7 layers. Okay, in this particular 7 layers, we are going to come to picture how the packet is going to understand which application I need to come, how it is going to understand the system. It is going to understand based on the port number, that port application port number. Each packet, how it is going to derive, how can the packet, the system is going to understand which packet, which data it is belongs to. Is it a browser packet? Is it a FTP packet? Or is it a HTTPS packet? It is depends upon in that packet travel itself, the packet, that what are the packet is going to form and source, and it is going to add the port number as well. Okay. So what is a firewall? Why I mentioned firewall? We need to understand the devices which are in use. We should not say that in ESXi host, we are going to configure firewall. The firewall is not available. Only specific communications, we are in application layer, we can configure the port binding, port deny, all those things. So that's the reason we should understand what is a firewall, how it is going to work firewall. Firewall is nothing but it is a kind of device. It can restrict the packet based on the application port numbers. It is not based on the network port group, network port or network port group or VLAN ID. It is going to, the firewall is going to work based on the application port number. We are not going to discuss about this firewall concept in virtualization. Why I mentioned here, we need to understand, differentiate between the what is the network port, what is the application port. Clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So, any other queries? If everyone is okay, I'll continue 10 more minutes. Is it okay? Shall I proceed?
Tomorrow is fine too.
Sorry?
We can continue tomorrow after the rest.
Yeah, it is login time.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, no issues. One final thing, this is the third day. So please, we need to go through Logic Labs. Where in logiclabs.com, you have to register and make the purchase this course, that VMware administrator. So as soon as you log in logiclabstech.com, upcoming batches will be there under VMware, which we are joining the sessions. This VMware session, this 3 days is over, and these 3 days sessions are available on YouTube. If you want to continue further sessions, you need to go and click on buy this course. So hope we are able to understand what is the importance and to support this going forward. I hope everyone understanding this, how to access this logiclabs.com, how to purchase this course. If you go to VMware, you can choose buy now course is there, click here and follow the payment options. Please enroll and please make the payment to continue further sessions. Yeah. Tomorrow we are going to discuss about the server models. What is a tower model? What is a rack enclosure? What is 1U, 2U, 4U? The blade and blade enclosure. And what is available in our Logic Labs lab, logiclabstech.com. What lab we are going to provide, what kind of server we are going to work, that is Dell PowerEdge R630. I'm going to showcase the models and I'm going to showcase how the Dell PowerEdge R630 is available, how it looks like, and how to open the chassis and all those things we are going to discuss tomorrow. Yeah. So please go to this upcoming batches in logiclabstech.com, select VMware and go for buy now. Okay. Thanks for all your participations. Thanks for your support. Have a great day.
Just one doubt, Srinivas.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, hi. My name is Dinesh. I have 10 years of experience. So VMware, I worked actually for 1 year, but later I
Your voice is disconnected. Hello. Just I'm going to provide one information. Yeah, please speak.
Yeah. So vCenter deployment also will be covered in this training. How is it?
Yes. ESXi host and ESXi host. After ESXi host, we are going to work on vCenter deployment. Both ESXi host and vCenter, how to upgrade also is available. Okay. So everything is covered. For everyone understanding, this is my mail ID. If you have any queries, you can send a mail communication to this particular mail ID. I'm pasting this chart information. You can copy paste this mail ID information. You can send a mail to this particular mail ID. Okay, for any queries, any kind of queries, I'll check the mail and respond accordingly. Please copy this mail communication and you can send. Okay, so going forward, the recorded sessions will not be available on YouTube. Whoever making the payment, and they are going to get a separate link, joining link, and then they can go through the videos, uploaded videos. And you can buy the course from this VMware and click on buy now. Yeah. Thanks for all your support. Have a great day.